Hey y'all, this is LaLa from LaLa Farm. Today we're going to be speaking about goat health and specifically the Famacha. For those of you who have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for future content.
Oh God! I haven't seen them square off like that in a while.
Today we're talking about Famacha, and I do regular Famacha checks on my goats. A Famacha check is done by looking at the inner eyelid of your goat, and I'll be demonstrating how to do that. A healthy goat should have a medium pink to a rose color eyelid. One of my tools that I use on the farm all the time is a Famacha card. I took training to actually get the Famacha card. You can only get that official card if you take the training, and I can't show you the card because it is copyrighted. However, I can tell you that it has a range of colors on it, going from bright red, which is super healthy, to white, which is indicative of possible death in your goat if you don't act immediately. So I'm not going to show you the card, but later I'll tell you how to get the card. So the most common causes of anemia in a goat is parasite load, such as stomach worm. Goats are highly susceptible to barber pole worm. Also coccidia can cause anemia in a goat, as well as external parasites such as blood-sucking lice. That's why it's always important to keep up with your Famacha on your goat, because then you can tell if they've got a parasite load that you're not even aware of through other means. It's the easiest way to tell if your goat is going anemic. So I'm going to demonstrate how you can do a Famacha check on your goats. So heat seeker, I can grab myself and just do him because he's spoiled rotten. So I just grab him and pull him over, grab the horn, hold him under the chin because it helps you get control. You push in on the upper eyelid and then pull down on this one. See, watch. Push in, pull down. Now what you're looking at is the lower eyelid that pops out right through here to get color. What you need to remember though, it's really important to keep in mind, the longer you hold it, the whiter it's going to get. So you want to learn to do it quickly, because then you get a true reading that way. The longer you hold it, the lighter it gets, and you're not getting an accurate reading. If you're questioning, sometimes I'll do both eyes just so I can, make sure of what I'm looking at. So I'm going to go ahead, push in, pull down, and he is a 2. Heat seeker's a 2, so I won't treat him for anything or anything like that. A 1 and a 2 is a really good score for the Famacha score on a goat. The thing to remember, Famacha score runs from 1 to 5. 1 is bright red, it's the best score. 5 is white, it's the worst score. So always remember that when you're marking down your scores. It's also really important to keep track of what the Famacha score was on your goat the last time you took it. That way you can see if there's any change or decline or improvement. If you've got a goat that you're treating for parasites that was severely anemic, so you're treating them with, say, red cell or iron shots and that type of thing, you're going to want to make sure that that goat is progressing to a more red color. And the way to do that is by constantly checking their Famacha. But the thing to remember with that too is if your goat goes severely anemic, just treating them for a couple of days is not going to make them grow bright red 2 days later. It takes a long time for that white to go back to pink and eventually increase to the bright red that you want it to be. That also is beneficial, checking Famacha scores like that, is because if you're in production of goats, whether for, say, meat production such as our goats, if I've got a goat that constantly carries a parasite load, it constantly has poor anemia or poor Famacha score, regardless of being treated. If I treat a goat for worms and then 2 months later that goat's wormed up again, then I know that's a goat that I need to pay close attention to, and then I'm going to end up culling, because I don't want them having that extra expense of having to treat that goat all the time. And on top of that, if you've got a goat that's constantly carrying parasite loads, they're polluting the rest of your pasture and putting your other goats at risk. All right, boys, you ready? Okay, I have Einar, who, he's a big boy. He's feisty, he's ornery, he don't like to be touched a whole lot, and he definitely is not happy because Rick is in his pen. He does not like men. So usually with me he's pretty good, but with men, not so much. So remember, hold the chin and the horn so you can get a good look. And I say he's about a 3, which is really rare for Einar. He's usually bright red, but we have had a lot of rain, which makes our pastures wet, which increases the possibility of getting parasites. So he's a 3. To me, that's kind of questionable. I'll keep an eye on him for a few more days. Now that I see that he is in that mid-range, I'm going to keep an eye on him for a few more days, just to see if it improves or changes or anything. My bucks are really good at fending off parasite loads. I'm going to keep an eye on him for a couple days because he's in that questionable range. Some people treat at 3. I don't. I try not to treat for worms unless I absolutely have to. Because first of all, it increases the resistance on your farm. I want my goats to be healthy enough and parasite resistant enough that they can shed those without a problem. So I'll just keep an eye on him and determine whether or not I'm going to worm him later. Sometimes you may see a fluctuation in their Famacha from a bright red to a lighter pink, and then it goes back to bright red. So and I think that is just the goat naturally fighting off the parasite load. So while it's important to check the Famacha on a regular basis, and we do that on our farm, if I'm just walking around, I grab a goat and we'll check the Famacha just on, a whim. But when I do full farm checks like I'm doing today, where I'm running all the goats through a Famacha check real quick, it's really good to have a helper, such as Madeline, who is keeping track of what their Famacha score is. I track my goat health in a actual program, record keeping program that I have. I recommend that all goat farmers have keep a record of their goat health when you vaccinate, when you've given a wormer, when you've treated for some type of illness or injury. Keep track of the Famachas, that type of thing, so you can always go back and look and see, is this goat one that I've had continuous problem with? Is this a goat, really healthy goat? Production wise too, you can keep track of kidding and stuff like that. That's a whole nother video. So Madeline's role today is just to write down what the Famacha scores are. Later on I'll go in and transpose those into my record keeping program that I use. As I indicated earlier, I check them frequently just by grabbing a goat and checking, but it's really important that you continuously check your goats on their Famacha score, especially those that are high risk, such as goats that are on wet pasture. Wet pasture promotes larva production, and the goats are at a higher risk of taking in worms when they're eating on a wet pasture. Another high-risk group is kids that are 6 to 8 weeks old, and the reason why they're at high risk is because by that time they've been exposed to larvae, and they're also going through the stress of weaning. Stress can promote what we call a worm bloom in a goat, so that's why it's really important that you check on the kids that are 6 to 8 weeks of age, so to make sure that they're not becoming anemic. They're quite sprightly and will run around and bounce around and be real active, and you may not realize that they're becoming anemic until it's too late. So that's why it's really important to stay on top of your kids. So earlier in the video I told you I'd give you a link to a website where you can get training opportunities to get your own Famacha card. We're going to put that right here. I love this website. It's www.wormex.info. It is a very informative website about parasites and small ruminants, and a lot of good information there, so I recommend that site anyway. Thank you all for watching. I really hope that this information has been helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below in the comments section. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for future content. And remember, always be kind to each other.